You rewrote a message 9 times yesterday before you sent it. You checked how it read. You softened one line, then softened it again. And after you sent it, you read it back twice to see how it might land. That is not carefulness. That is a man asking permission. And here is the part that stays hidden. You are not short of confidence. You have plenty of it. It is simply held by other people, issued to you in small amounts when they approve, and withdrawn without notice when they do not. You have been living on credit that somebody else controls. Confidence you can lose in one conversation was never yours. 8 Stoic laws. Not how to appear confident. How to build the kind that cannot be taken, because nobody else is holding it. And the 6th law is the one your instincts will fight hardest. It is also the one that ends this permanently. One thing before we begin. Do not listen to this like a video about confidence. Listen as though each law is naming something you did this week. And when one of them lands and you feel a small movement in you to explain it away, do not. That resistance is the part you cannot postpone. Law 1, the gavel. There is a courtroom running in your head, and it has been in session for years. Every mistake you have made is filed there. Every rejection. Every time somebody's face changed while you were speaking. But look at where you are standing in that room. You are not on the bench. You are in the dock. And the people deciding your worth are strangers who saw 8 seconds of your life. Epictetus was born a slave. His body belonged to another man, and he built an entire philosophy on the one thing that could not be taken: his own judgment of himself. A man could own his labor, his movement, his food, not his verdict. They can hold your body, your money, your reputation. They cannot hold the bench. So tomorrow morning, before the phone, one question: who has the gavel today? And the honest answer, most mornings, is that you handed it over years ago and never asked for it back. Take it back and something strange happens immediately. The world still judges you. The verdict simply stops arriving. But a courtroom needs evidence, and yours is almost empty. Which is exactly why other people's opinions have been so easy to accept. Law 2. The private ledger. Ask yourself what your confidence is actually built on, and be precise. Compliments. A job title. A number somewhere. A person who has not left yet. Every one of those belongs to somebody else, which means every one of them can be withdrawn on a Tuesday, without warning, by someone having a bad week. Seneca said a man's real test is not how he behaves when the world is watching, but how he behaves when the world disappears. He was not making a point about morality. He was making one about foundations. Here is what actually builds it. You make a promise nobody knows about. Small, specific, boring. 1 page. 10 minutes. 1 phone call you have been avoiding. And you keep it. Nobody applauds. Nobody notices. That is the entire mechanism. Because confidence is not a feeling about yourself. It is a record. It is the accumulated evidence that when you say you will do something, you do it. And it can only be built out of things nobody saw. A compliment can be withdrawn. A kept promise cannot. Do that for 2 weeks and you will notice something. Praise stops landing as hard. So does criticism. You have your own file now, and theirs is no longer the only one in the room. But your file already contains something you have been reading wrong for years. Law 3. The Wreckage. Around 300 BC, a merchant named Zeno of City lost an entire cargo of purple dye in a shipwreck off Athens. Everything. His trade, his money, and the identity he had spent his life building. He wandered into a bookshop, started reading philosophy, and never went back to trade. He founded Stoicism. He said later that he made a prosperous voyage when he suffered shipwreck. Now think about the worst thing that has happened to you. Not to feel it again, to read it correctly, because you have been treating it as proof that you are fragile, and it is proof of exactly the opposite. You are still here. It did not finish you. Something in you kept going while you were certain it could not. Your scars are not evidence against you. They are receipts. This is why people who have survived something walk into difficult rooms calmly. They are not braver than you. They simply have data. They already know what the bottom feels like and that there is floor down there. So tonight, 3 of the hardest moments of your life. And beside each one, what you did next. Not what it did to you. What you did. That column is the one you have never written down, and it is the only evidence in the file that is actually yours. Now, evidence protects you from your past. Law 4 is about what still has power over your future. Law 4, the open hand. Squeeze a fistful of sand and it pours out between your fingers. Hold the same sand on an open palm, and it stays. That is not a metaphor about sand. It is the mechanics of every fear you have. Whatever you cannot lose owns you. The relationship you cannot imagine ending. The job you would not survive losing. The reputation you protect in every room. You call it caring about things. It is closer to being held by them. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire that could have collapsed through plague, war, or betrayal on any given morning. And he reminded himself daily that nothing outside his own character actually belonged to him. Not the throne, not the loyalty of his generals, not tomorrow. Work with everything you have. Let none of it hold your peace. So answer one question honestly and quickly, without editing it. What are you most afraid of losing? Whatever arrived first has more control over you than you have been willing to admit. Fear always shows you the address where your freedom is being kept. And the man who needs nothing from a room cannot be managed by anyone in it. Which raises the question of how much time you actually have to keep living like this. Quick one. If you have ever rewritten a message more than 5 times before sending it, type 9 in the comments, just so you can see how many men are doing that today. Law 5. The deadline. You are going to die, and you have been treating that as a distant rumor rather than a scheduling constraint. The Stoics kept it in front of them daily, memento mori, and not because they were morbid, because a man with unlimited time can afford to care what strangers think. A man with a deadline cannot. Watch what happens to the calculation. That embarrassing thing from 4 years ago that still tightens your chest. How much of your remaining life is it reasonable to give it? The colleague whose approval you have been quietly managing. How many of your remaining mornings does that deserve? Once the time is finite, the arithmetic answers itself. Most of what steals your confidence cannot survive being priced in days. The problem was never that you feared death. It is that you have been living as though there is no deadline at all. And once you have accepted the one certainty, notice what is left for the world to threaten you with. Criticism, rejection, embarrassment. All of it shrinks. Not because you became braver, but because you finally compared it to something real. Now the law your instincts will fight. Everything so far has been preparation for this one. Law 6, the undefended. Somebody says something about you that is unfair, and immediately, without deciding to, you start building the response, the clarification, the context, the version of events that would make them understand. You have done this in the shower, in the car, at 2 in the morning to a ceiling, and you have never once considered the possibility that the explanation itself is the problem. Here is what defending yourself actually signals: that their verdict matters enough to be corrected. You cannot argue your way out of that. Every explanation is a request for a better judgment from a court you just admitted has authority. An explanation does not clear your name. It confirms you needed to be cleared. So the law is this: you stop explaining. Not silence out of fear. Silence as a position. Someone misreads you, and you let it stand. Someone assumes wrongly, and you allow the assumption to exist without your correction attached to it. It will feel unbearable the first time. Your chest will tighten and every part of you will want to add one sentence. Add nothing. Sit in it. It passes in about 90 seconds, and what is on the other side of those 90 seconds is the thing you have been chasing this entire video. Marcus Aurelius, running an empire full of rumor and political theater, wrote that the best revenge is to be unlike the man who did the injury. Not to correct him, not to win. To be unlike him, and let that be the whole response. And watch what happens in the room when you do it. The man who explains gets weighed. The man who does not gets wondered about. One of those positions is defended. The other cannot be attacked at all, because there is nothing hanging out to grab. 2 laws left, and they are short, because from here it stops being defense and becomes construction. Law 7, the ordinary week. Imagine somebody followed you for one ordinary week. Not your best week, an average one with the tiredness and the bad Tuesday in it. What would they conclude about you? Not from what you say you value, from what they actually watched you do at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. This is the honest measure, and it is uncomfortable precisely because it is accurate. Confidence is not a good week. It is what survives an ordinary one. Your image is built on your best day. Your character is built on your average one. So stop trying to become impressive. Become consistent. Because impressive requires an audience, and consistent does not. And only one of those two can be relied upon by you when you are alone at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. One law left, and it is not another rule. It is what the other 7 were for. Law 8, the inner kingdom. Look back at the 7, because none of them were really about confidence. The gavel was not about opinions. It was about becoming a man who holds his own verdict. The ledger was about becoming a man who has evidence. The wreckage, a man who reads his own history correctly. The open hand, a man who cannot be managed through what he fears losing. The deadline, a man who prices things honestly. The undefended, a man with nothing hanging out to be grabbed. The ordinary week, a man who is the same on Wednesday as he is on his best day. None of it was about becoming confident. All of it was about becoming a man whose confidence is not held by anyone else. Marcus Aurelius, with more power than almost any man in history, wrote that you have power over your mind and not over outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He was the most powerful man alive, and he located his strength in the only place that could not be taken from him. That is the whole thing. Not becoming unstoppable, becoming unconquerable, which is a smaller claim and a permanent one. Your challenge is 1 law, not 8. Law 6, for 7 days. The next time someone misreads you, and it will happen this week, you add nothing. No clarification, no context, no one last sentence. You let it stand. Then come back and comment undefended, and what it cost you to stay quiet. That is the measurement, and almost nobody reports it because almost nobody attempts it. And there is a harder version of all of this. Every law here assumes you can sit with your own company without reaching for something to fill it, because that silence is where the verdict gets taken back, and modern life is built to prevent it. That video is on your screen now. 5 Stoic reasons being alone makes you unstoppable. I'll see you there.